Hello and welcome to Comics Corner with me, your host, Connor Nolan. Over the course of each episode, I'm going to break down a comic book story and discuss its main character's plot, talk a little bit about the fan reception, give it my own personal rating, and also where you can find the comic book. Now, sit back, relax, and get ready to learn about comics. Hello and welcome back, everybody. And today, have I got a story for you. Today, we are covering Batman and Captain America from Elseworlds Comics. Well, it's not really Elseworlds Comics. It is actually part of the Elseworlds line from DC Comics. It was published in 1996, and this is really interesting. It was written and illustrated by John Byrne. Now, if you couldn't guess from the title, Batman and Captain America, the main characters are going to be Batman and Captain America and their whole assorted crew of characters. So, starting off, we're going to start off with Batman, who's got a genius-level intellect. He is an expert detective. He's skilled in martial arts and hand-to-hand combat. He's a master tactician, strategist, and field commander, and he utilizes high-tech equipment. Then, we have Captain America, who was injected with the super soldier serum, which grants him enhanced strength, speed, stamina, durability, agility, reflexes, senses, and mental processing. He's also a master martial artist and hand-to-hand combatant. He's got accelerated healing, immunity to disease and toxins. He's got slowed aging. He's a master tactician, strategist, field commander, and he also uses a vibranium steel alloy shield. The next character up is Robin, who is the partner of Batman, and in this story, it is specifically stated that it is the first Robin, Dick Grayson. And as Robin, Dick Grayson was an expert detective, skilled acrobat and aerialist, a skilled martial artist and hand-to-hand combatant. He was proficient in combat strategy. He also utilizes high-tech and equipment and weapons. And then we're going to go on to Bucky Barnes, who is Captain America's sidekick, and at this point in time, he was just Bucky Barnes, not the Winter Soldier. This is very important to point out. As Bucky, he is a master hand-to-hand combatant and martial artist. He is a skilled marksman, skilled in the use of military weapons and throwing knives, and also he's got some acrobatic abilities. It's not really stated, but he definitely uses it throughout the story. Then we have the Joker, who is Batman's arch nemesis. He's a criminal mastermind. This I found really interesting. He's an expert chemist, which I personally didn't know until I started doing research for this one. And then he also uses weaponized props and toxins. And then the final character I want to go over really quick is the Red Skull, who is Captain America's sometime arch nemesis, sometimes not. Something to know right off the bat is he is a Nazi. Well, in this story, he's a Nazi, and he was a Nazi in Marvel, and then he wasn't, but then he is. I don't know. In this story, he's a Nazi, and he has genius-level intellect. He is also a genius scientist, expert tactician, strategist, and field commander, and he's also skilled in hand-to-hand combat and marksman abilities. Alright, let's move on to the plot. Alright, everybody, let's jump into the plot. So we open in January 1945 in the streets of Gotham, and the Joker is tearing up the place in the Joker-mobile, with Batman and Robin hot on his tail, and, they're chasing him, they corner him on a pier, and he just ejects out of the Joker-mobile and parachutes away, which, annoys Robin. And I mean, if I was in his shoes, I'd be annoyed too. But that's besides the point. And so Robin's like, well, at least we still have the Joker-mobile, and we can examine it for clues and figure out where he's hiding. And Batman starts to investigate it, and then Robin's like, don't you hear something ticking? And then, boom, it explodes. Then it is paralleled by an explosion that Captain America is facing. And we switch over to Captain America, and he is currently fighting this giant tank thing made by the Nazis. I don't know, it looks kind of like a tank, but it also is just massively huge, and Captain America's... The thing that makes me think that it's supposed to be a tank is Captain America says it has more firepower than 100 Panzer tanks, so... yeah, I guess it's a tank. But he climbs up the tread and jams his nearly indestructible shield into the gears, and then the tank falls over. I get that it's a short book and we shouldn't question it too much, but I don't understand how jamming one tread would make the whole thing collapse. But fast and loose, we got to play it fast and loose because we only have a certain amount of pages. So Captain America is congratulated by his squad, then is given new orders to return to stateside, which he looks sort of happy about. But I mean, he, in my opinion, from everything that I've read about Captain America over the years, I don't think he would be too happy about this because his moral obligation is to help those in need. And I mean, who could be, well, I mean, who would be more morally right than, it would be more morally right to help the soldiers in the field than to go back stateside where he's safe. But besides the point, Captain America and Bucky come in on a plane, and then they see another plane just randomly take off that's being chased. And so they start chasing it, but their plane is running on empty. And Captain America's like, I got an idea. But the pilot's like, wait a minute. You're going to jump out of my plane and try to jump onto this other plane. You don't have a parachute. And Captain America's like, psh, parachutes. Who needs them? And he literally says, okay, Bucky, if I mess this up and miss the plane and basically fall to my death, you're up next. And I'm sorry. What? But, besides the point, we gotta play it fast and loose. So, Captain America jumps out of his plane, lands and grabs a wire that's sticking off of the other plane that they're chasing, and he's dodging bullets left, right, and center, but then the wire he's holding onto gets shot, and so he's hanging off of the back of the plane by a wire, and he's still getting shot at, and then he slips, but then Batman comes in and grabs Captain America's hands, and we get this great shot of, I've got you now, and Captain America's like, the Batman. And the Batplane is currently being flown by Robin. They jump into the plane, make quick work of the crew of the plane, and it's just poetry in motion. They're working in tandem as if they had worked together their entire lives. And they're talking about why the plane was stolen. They land the plane, they start interrogating the guys, but then they all start laughing. And it's shown that they were infused with the Joker's venom, and that kills them. But they turn it over to the proper authorities. Batman and Robin leave. Bucky says this great line, did you see the way Robin kept looking at me? I guess he knows who's got the better partner and the more exciting life. But then the next panel is Bucky being bored in a room, which is really funny. And the higher up generals are talking to Captain America, and they're talking about how the Joker has done all of this stuff, and he's been espionaging things and stealing things, but they're like, oh no, he is a pawn for someone much higher up, and we know who it is billionaire Bruce Wayne. And Captain America's like, but if it was Bruce Wayne, wouldn't we know? He's a billionaire and everyone see him. They're like, that's why he's the perfect person to do this. So they attach Private Steve Rogers, who is actually Captain America's real name, to be Bruce Wayne's bodyguard. For those of you who don't know this, Bruce Wayne is Batman. So that's why he often disappears. So they bring Private Rogers in there, and Bruce Wayne pretends to be a playboy, and he just makes Steve bored. And then one night, Dick's like, so we're just gonna let the Joker run around while you're pretending to not be Batman? And he's like, no. I've got to go see my appointment with the Joker. But as he says that, Steve is outside his window, and he's like, appointment with the Joker. And so Bruce sneaks away, gets into Wayne Enterprises, the Wayne Foundation building, my apologies, and goes up to his penthouse. Steve sneaks in, takes the public elevator, but it's unfortunately 5 floors below what he needs. And so, because it's 5 floors below what he needs, Steve has this brilliant idea. Let's go out a window and climb the building. Granted, it works, but I mean, he went out of a window and climbed the outside of a building. But then he sneaks up on Bruce Wayne, and they start fighting, and it's great because they're matching each other blow for blow, and during their fight, they realize each other is each other that they had already worked with. So Steve figures out that Bruce is Batman, and Bruce figures out that Steve is Captain America, and they shake hands. Then we cut to the Joker, and we see that he's talking to some dark figure on his screen, and Joker is annoyed as to what's happening, but the figure on the screen starts yelling at him, and they come to some agreement. And then the figure takes off his mask, and it turns out that it is none other than the Red Skull who is manipulating the Joker. And we dip and dive, and we see a couple things. We see a whole platoon of guys get taken out by Joker Venom, and then we cut back to the Batcave, and Alfred brings them all tea, and we got Cap and Bucky and Robin and Batman all there, and Robin's like, oh my gosh, it's the bat signal. Batman's like, well, I can't go, so we're going to have to figure something out. And so Robin jumps in, and he's like, well, Batman couldn't be here, Commissioner, but I brought a replacement, and it's Captain America. And I mean, like, where else are you going to see Commissioner Gordon and Captain America in the same panel? So they talk a little bit about this bandit boat. Captain America does this line math stuff to figure out where it came from. Then we switch back over to Bucky and Batman. Bucky's like, ho ho ho, this Batmobile wouldn't be able to stand 10 seconds on the front lines of the war. And Batman's like, well, yeah, I know, I didn't design it to be a tank or anything. This is what I designed it for. And he shows them all these cool bat features of the Batmobile. And they start investigating this one place, and they get jumped. And, you know, they're fighting off, good fight, but then they get gassed with something, and they get knocked out, and it's the Red Skull. Then we switch back to Robin and Cap. Oh, man, I love saying that. And they find this little shack with 2 dead soldiers, and, you know, Cap's like, oh my gosh, I know what their target is, and they drive off on his motorcycle. And then we switch back to Bucky and Batman. And I love saying that too. And Red Skull's interrogating them, and yada yada, and he's just having this giant monologue, and he's talking about how they're gonna die and explode. And he drives off, and there's a giant explosion. Then we switch back to Cap and Robin, and they go up to they're talking about some stuff that's happened. Then we switch to a military base, and we got Joker just comes in and gasses all of these guys, and he sees this really cool looking plane, like fast, and he's like, ho ho ho, looks like the guy I was working with's got some money. And he's like, oh, where's your boss? Like, you don't want him to get mad because of this stuff. And Red Skull comes out, and Joker's like, you're late for Halloween. And this is beautiful. Red Skull's like, no, I'm not Halloween. And Joker says one of the most iconic Joker lines of all time, in my opinion. I may be a crazy lunatic, but I'm an American. Wait, no, my apologies. It's, I may be a criminal lunatic, but I'm an American criminal lunatic. And that's just so funny, because even Joker, one of the craziest, deadliest villains of all time, knows Nazis are bad. And so they both shoot off their own gas weapons. So Joker hits Red Skull with the Joker Venom, and Red Skull hits Joker with something that he refers to as death dust. They're both choking. They're both immune to each other's poisonous gases. But Joker's not immune to getting hit in the back of the head with a wrench. Which, I mean, fair enough. He's a dude. he got hit in the head with the back of a wrench, like he got hit in the back of the head with a wrench. That's gonna knock you out. And so they drag his knocked out body onto the plane, and they start taking off the plane. But then they're conveniently being chased by the Batplane that's got both Batman, Robin, Captain America, and Bucky on it. And they start flying and chasing, and they do one of these coolest things ever. They land the Batplane on top of the other plane, and then using some sort of lasers, cut a hole in the top of the plane so that they can jump in. Batman and Cap get in, start making short work of the crew. Robin is left to deal with the Batplane, but he does end up landing it and not crashing it, which is really good. And so it turns out that the Red Skull's got a nuke on the plane, and he's laughing at Batman through the door, and he's talking about all this stuff and how he's going to do it. And there is a little glass window in the door, and Batman just punches straight through it and punches Red Skull in the face. It's great. And then Cap takes over the controls and starts flying it away from their target, while Joker starts bashing on the mechanisms that lower the bomb. And he's being heroic in this moment because he's like, you're a crazy Nazi and I'm not gonna work with you. So the two of them start fighting, and then somehow the bomb mechanism is hit and the bomb just drops, and then it explodes, and you're left to think that Joker and Red Skull died, but Cap and Batman were able to get away just by the skin of their teeth. And then we see that Bucky and Robin landed the plane, and they're talking about this, and they're like, Batman's like, I don't think we've seen the last of Joker and Red Skull, and Captain America's like, you really do believe that, don't you? And I mean, they've come back from crazier stuff, so I wouldn't be surprised. And then we get an epilogue, and after much research, it turns out that the epilogue takes place in the same universe as Superman Batman Generations, which is a 3-part Elseworlds story, I believe. It is something that I definitely want to talk about one day, just not today. And then because of the epilogue, it also turns out that the whole story took place in that same universe, which I found really interesting that they're tying it all in together. But anyway, the epilogue, we see Batman and Robin. Now, when I say Batman and Robin, I didn't say Bruce Wayne and Dick Grayson, because in this epilogue, it is Dick Grayson in the Batman uniform and Bruce Wayne Jr. in the Robin uniform. And they are in the Bat submarine, and they're looking for the Joker Jr. Instead, they find a little frozen capsule, and there's someone in the capsule. And as they start thawing it, it is none other than Captain America, and his first words are, Bucky, no. Which implies that this takes place after Bucky sacrifices himself. Well, I wouldn't say so much sacrifices himself as he gets caught in an explosion, which then throws Captain America into a glacier. And Captain America's like, wait, Batman and Robin, and he's like, yes and no. I'm Dick Grayson. I took over for Bruce. This is Bruce Wayne Jr., the son of Batman. And then we cut back to the Batcave, where Bruce Wayne is talking to Captain America, and they're talking a little bit about what happened after he left, and then we figured out that you must have been frozen or something, and then we get this last great line of, welcome back, Captain America, and it is amazing. This is by far one of my most favorite Elseworld books. Yeah, I'd have to say that. Alright, and now we're going to go on to when I talk about fan reception, where you can buy it, and my own personal rating. Alright everybody, this is the part of the show when I talk about the fan reception. I tell you where you can find it, and I give it my own personal rating. So, fan reception. this was a little hard to find because it came out in '96, and a lot of things were happening, but also not a lot of things were happening, and comics were on decline, and that's why they started doing things like this. But from what I could find, people enjoyed it because, I mean, it is a comic book with both Captain America and Batman in it, and I mean, who doesn't love that? I mean, that's just cool. I also did a lot of digging, and the only place that I could find off, like, in the digging I did was Amazon. Um, I'm sure if you really looked hard enough, you could find it in local comic book stores, and I'm sure if you looked hard enough, you could probably find it from an online service. But the real place that I could find it easily and accessibly was Amazon. Now, to give it my own rating, I gave it an 8. I really liked it. It's a really cool story. Also, like, it's Batman and Captain America and Captain America and Batman, you know? But it's a bit short in my opinion. I understand why it had to be short. Um, Elseworld books usually are short. I would have liked to see if they would have done a sequel to this, but I mean, obviously it didn't happen, and with the way things are now, I highly doubt that it'll happen ever again. Maybe not, fingers crossed, but you know. So yeah, I give it an 8 overall. Great story. I think you guys should read it. Thanks so much for listening to Comics Corner with me, Connor Nolan. If you like what you heard today, why don't you tell your friends about it and share it all around? And if you have any suggestions for what comics should be next on the show, leave a comment down below. And remember, comics are king.